Well, speaking of Democracy Manifest, Jim, let's talk about AEW Dynamite. This week, another big show. Every week, I'm like, oh, that's where they are. And then by the next day, I forget where they were. But another big Dynamite from another big locale.
Fairfax, Virginia.
There you go. For Dynamite.
And to be fair, that is a suburb of the Washington, D.C. area, correct?
I believe so, because every time DC was mentioned, they got a big pop.
Well, there you go. And it wasn't because of politics. So they thought they had something here. They would no show open, no blowing off pyro. They go straight to MJF's music and entrance and introduction. And it's the commercial-free match they're leading the show with, MJF versus Rush. And Brian, what did I say last week when they announced this thing that I was afraid was going to happen? That Rush was going to sell very little, if anything, and beat up MJF for the majority of the match, not only beating him up, but beating him up in a way that it's like in a lot of cases, he's not even trying to beat the guy up and beating him up. And by the time that MJF wins by the skin of his teeth and it takes everything he's got to beat this fucking nobody, that it will do more damage to MJF to have won this match than if he had not had it to begin with. What was your evaluation of what happened here?
I liked it. Now, it did go a little long, considering MJF's stature in AEW and Rush's stature as the way he's been booked. Now, he's a former Ring of Honor champion. It is important to note that.
Blow me.
No, but that was BT before Tony. So he was a Ring of Honor champion.
Still.
And, I mean, we knew what it was. We knew he was going to throw MJF into all four barricades. We also knew there was no way he was going to win. And he's impervious to pain. He's like a Mexican Superman or a Mexican Matt Jackson. Just nothing could affect him or hurt him or bother him in any way. And then the other thing was when MJF beat him, I'm assuming MJF was whispering something to him like, "Mucho gracias, mi amigo," because Rush patted him on the head right as the 3 count was being hit. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't. I'd already given up. I did notice when he reached down and grabbed MJF by the dick. And then they tried to switch the camera, and they did, so you didn't actually see it, but you saw the reach and you saw MJF jump like, what the fuck? This guy just grabbed my dick. And I saw Rush headbutt MJF and flatten him and bust his mouth open. MJF's mouth was bleeding. And I saw Rush just beating up MJF and acting like it's not hard to do. MJF tries to fight back. Rush goozles him. Who does this clown think he is? I'm reading my notes. MJF hits his DDT. He gets a 2 count. Hits a pile driver. Gets a 2 count. Rush suplexes MJF upside down into the turnbuckle. Rush hits a pile driver. It looked like shit the way he did it. He didn't have control of MJF, and he covered him like a jobber.
Which means it probably hurt. It looked like shit.
Yeah. He bashed him off every barricade, kicked the shit out of him, played to the camera like MJF was one of the Mulkey brothers. Buried the referee by making him look stupid enough that it took him 15 minutes to figure out how to slide a goddamn chair out of the ring so he could whip MJF with cables. Tore up the fan signs. MJF started to come back, and Rush belly to bellied him off the apron to the floor and started kicking the shit out of him again. And then finally, MJF made his comeback, hit the heat seeker, hit a brainbuster, 1, 2, 3. And he laid there exhausted, having barely beaten somebody that only his immediate family would recognize if you put him on the news tomorrow. And there you go. And then the match before we go on to the afterbirth.
I thought it was okay, but I kind of knew what to expect. And I didn't see Rush as just a jobber because I kind of knew who he was, but I'm not saying that's the right thing to do.
I'm saying he needs to be a jobber because he's a shits, but he didn't have to be a jobber, but my God. He's never going to draw 15 cents in Chinese money. They might get him in a position where he's good to have a match to put a fucking babyface over on the babyface's way to do something. But Jesus Christ, I'm sorry.
The other thing
I was incensed.
If you remember when MJF first got over, because AEW was his debut on national TV, MLW aside, that doesn't really count. He rarely wrestled on TV. He wrestled on the pay-per-views, and every one of those matches was excellent.
Yeah.
Like one better than the next. But we rarely saw him wrestle on TV. That was also when AEW, as AEW's numbers have gone down, unfortunately, it drags everyone else down, but that was when he first started connecting with the audience. Now you're seeing him in long competitive matches. And again, it's like no one's booked with the right person they should be squashing. MJF should be squashing someone to get ready for something, not having a long competitive match with someone who, let's see what happens, because Tony squanders everyone. If Roosh comes out of this and does something significant, maybe we look back on this a little differently. I don't know if that's going to happen. But MJF now think about that Daniel Garcia Camarado match last week, which made no sense. And then this week, Rhett Titus got his ass kicked. That made sense a little bit better than that. But we always say it, there are a lot of matches that unfortunately are squash matches that go forever. And a lot of it's because of the booking and a lot of it's because of the people. But how long did this go? Was it 22 minutes or so?
Because we've still got the afterbirth to go, because talk about the lousy booking. After that was over with, then Brian Cage is on the screen. And he's got the great value Samoans with him. And a guy in a mask. And MJF is going to wrestle the masked guy at Forbidden Door. And then the masked guy does a promo on MJF in Spanish. And that was it. And it's, of course, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Hechichichero. And why?
This promo, the heel promo, you're not even really talking about how ridiculous it was with Brian Cage being the spokesman. And then at the very end, one of the guys, I don't know their names or I don't remember who's who, just at the very end, I leaned in just to make a noise. Almost like I'm getting something in.
Yes.
Promo. I'm crazy. I do what all crazy people do. I growl.
It's MJF's hometown. He's one of the biggest stars in the company. It's a pay-per-view. And they're risking him getting hurt to wrestle for no reason against a nobody that nobody's going to buy a ticket to see.
I had that thought during this Roosh match, risking him getting injured. I mean, we know he just overcame whatever he was healing up for. And we also know that he probably didn't get all the surgeries that he needs. When he took that bump to the floor, I was like, oh, shit. And then you're wrestling a guy, maybe he's the safest guy in the world. I don't know. But it looks like he's laying everything in and he's going to do his shit. He'll find a way to make your body work with it, but he's doing his shit. So I don't know. I worried about that during this match, and MJF will get hurt.
Well.
But Hechichero, anyway. I like his promo. Hechichero, I like his promo.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to see. Maybe we're going to see it, maybe not. I'm still holding out hope that the cult will say, no, we don't even want to hear about it. And then what do you think, or what did you think of the Swerve Strickland and Will Ostrich debate?
I thought it was intriguing. I also thought it was pretty clear from this, as a cockeyed optimist, that Will Ospreay has more charisma and connects with that crowd better than just about everyone in the company, including the world champion. And
I wish. Oh, God, I'm sorry.
No. You go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I wish could he make an effort not to look like a parking lot attendant with the backward baseball cap and the fucking sweats? He's going to be.
But that may be why he's connecting.
$1 billion.
But that may be why he's connecting. Is part of that is that he's dressing, I guess, somewhat the same way he would dress on the plane. He's going to dress in the building.
See, that's the kind of person you see him on a plane or out in public, and you go, boy, what a fucking douchebag. But nevertheless.
But I thought Will Ospreay, I've liked Will Ospreay on the mic. I think he's good, and I think it took a while for this to get going. But when Swerve finally fired up at the end and came back, it got a little better. But again, now they're dragging families into it. It gets personal, like every other thing with Swerve, where he's stealing photos or stealing babies or whatever, breaking into houses or gyms. I don't know what's happening. I mean, I want to see the match, but you know, you look at this and you think Will Ospreay should be the top guy, not Swerve. That's at least what I thought.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that Swerve 6 months ago, they were hanging on his every word. And now it's so-so at best because of the fact that he got it a little bit late. They had to, they delayed it when they stuck Hangman Page in the thing when he wasn't wanted. And they missed Swerve's peak, and then they made him look like a complete idiot. And now the flavor of the moment comes along. Good old Willie Boy, and they like him, but... And then the thing is, who is an opponent for either one of these guys for the world title? MJF. They've all been baby faces, except the Will Ostrich is a baby face who used to be, maybe still is. We don't know why it came about or whether it still exists or not, managed by the top heel manager. Swerve Strickland was the top baby face that terrorized children, and MJF was the top baby face by being the living incarnation of the devil himself. And now the only people that they can possibly draw any money with are a couple of these people in combination with each other, kind of now. And they buried Swerve, so it's kind of boiling down to Ostrich and MJF. And
don't forget, I mean, you brought him up very casually there, and the Elite need a representative at the top of the card. Adam Page disappeared off TV because of family issues. You got to think he'll be back at some point. I thought he may be back on this show.
But hold on now.
And they got him and Swerve is still a thing. Whether we like it or not, for them, it's still a thing.
But no, family issues, horse shit. He's been gone for months, and it's not like that somebody is desperately ill and hooked up to a machine on the verge of dying for 4 months. That he can't go to work one day a fucking week? No, something's going on. Either that or Tony's just an idiot and he's let this guy tell him, well, I got problems, so I can't come to work because everybody don't like me anyway, or whatever. But what kind of problems could you have for months and months that you cannot fly to do a television show for 4 hours and come back?
Hey, Tony let Regal out of his contract so he could be with his son. Tony will do crazy things. He'll let you do things. When it comes to family, he'll let you take as much time as you need.
But this went on a while, and as you mentioned, they finally got into it, but Nana then cut him off and told him to save it for the match.
Smartest guy there.
And the music starts playing, and then Swerve says, wait a minute, cut the music. I'm like, fuck, no, not more. And Swerve said, give my regards to Al and Harry. And Al and Harry are, I guess they're the royal children, aren't they? The royal twins.
I'm guessing they're his kids.
Prince Harry and Prince Al. Oh, I thought he was knocking the royal children. No, I'm fucking with you.
Prince Al.
He's known all across the British Isles. But anyway, they go head to head and they argue without doing anything. And then later on in the back, Don Fallis tells Trent and Take-A-Shit and Kyle Felcher that it's all fine. We still don't know why he's managing Ostrich. We still don't, I don't know what the fuck is going on. That's what happened between those two people.
And to be quite honest with you, for AEW, that was a good 1-2 punch. The MJF match into this segment. Whatever you want to say, that's as good as it gets for the last several months, if not longer, for this show. That was the least amount of silliness. It was the most...
Isn't it a shame? Isn't it a shame we have to say that?
It was the most almost like pro wrestling at times. So I thought this was a promising start to the show, actually.
Well, the 1-2 punch quickly turned into being punch drunk. Because immediately after that, we got an 8-man tag team match with Take a Shit, Felcher, Roderick Strong, and Zack Sabre Jr. coming from somewhere against Dante Martin, Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and our little puppy Pockets. And again, I'm embarrassed for poor Mark Briscoe, a top-level talent, having to
Oh, he did a promo. Did you see the
follow
promo?
around in this. No, because Pockets was in it. So I just was going to be mad.
I would have done the same thing, and I just happened to listen. He stole the show. At the time, you said Pockets. Pockets is big. Kyle O'Reilly's making goofy faces too right now, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, Kyle's he's dead and buried. They might as well speak the words over him. He looks like shit and has been presented like shit.
But Mark Briscoe gave like this impassioned, crazy, this guy's nuts promo. It was great. Yeah. He just happened to be standing with all these people.
Every goddamn time he talks, it's great. Every time he works, it's great. And he's standing with children and outlaw fucking dipshits. And it's a criminal. But anyway, and this thing went 30 minutes. The 8-man tag. We were at the 9 o'clock hour by the time they got the comedy relief out of the way. And then at 9 o'clock, here came the Egyptians. We were doing fine, and then here came the Egyptians. The Hardley Boys now have their own comedy introduction thing from Smiley Roberts. And so that's to make sure you don't take that seriously, if anybody would make that mistake. And then, as the Buckaroos have finished entering the ring, the Acclaimed start their entrance, and Caster starts doing his rap, and the mic goes dead. And he's like, what the fuck? And then you see on screen, Cody is back at the gorilla position with the headset and the monitor and everything, and he's like some comedy where he says bitches. They like to laugh when he says bitches with his goofy accent.
Well, he said bitch, not bitches. He called them a bitch. But the other thing was
bitches. I didn't know whether it was singular or plural.
There was someone else, and I almost want to say it was a Japanese wrestler. Was there someone else on the show who did the exact same thing and called someone else bitch right at the end? But he did that here. It's his thing.
I think that's Shapoopy with his phone translator.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So it's not even just his thing.
But so they've killed this dick lick off too now. He's just a fucking mope-faced, average-looking fucking guy wearing an ill-fitting suit that does stupid comedy. And they paid millions for him. So then they had Buckaroos and the Acclaimed, after the Acclaimed couldn't do the only thing that gets them over. And they had a jump start on the ramp and a four-way on the floor, and the fans weren't giving a shit, and why in the world should they? And I didn't watch this match because it involves the fucking Hardley Boys, and I knew what was going to happen, I thought, until they actually put the Acclaimed. Actually, they didn't put the Acclaimed over. They put Anthony Bowens over. They sidelined Caster, and then they let Bowens do all the bullshit, and then Caster came back at the end after Bowens had set it up or whatever the fuck. And then Billy Gunn came in to celebrate with the Acclaimed. So at least the Buckaroos lost this, but does anybody care at this point? Is it too late? Is it not enough? Was anybody watching by now? These are all questions.
The Acclaimed have kind of lost their luster for me, but they have for a while. Like you said, it was almost like it was sabotage. They took away the one thing. In character, it was sabotage, but in real life, it may have been as well. Took away the one thing that gets these guys over or separates them from everyone else. Does it get you excited for War Games?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right around the corner. That's right around the corner.
Is that at Forbidden Door, too?
No, that's on TV for free.
Oh, big
Blood and Guts.
The big blow-off cage match with all of the regular talent that's featured on television all the time is on free TV, but we got to pay to see the people we've never heard of before.
July 24th from Nashville.
Is that a Dynamite or is that a...
July 24th is a Wednesday
Well, there you go.
from Nashville.
So going back to this program, Maria May was in the ring and was going to host the women's title contract signing. And that's where she introduced Mitsu Arakawa, and she comes out with the Stardom thing, the video on the screen, and the peppy Stardom music, and the Stardom. Do they think this Stardom shit is going to be worth 2 wet farts on United States television? And are the people who would be most interested in watching this Stardom horse shit and this Joshi bullshit, are those people on some type of government registry or list? And do they have to tell us where they live? Can they just
Not everyone
move
who
around the
watches
country?
Stardom is a pervert.
Can they just move around the country freely and willy-nilly, moving from California to Sarasota, Florida, or whatever?
Stop it in St. Louis? I don't know.
And they let her try to talk here, too. And after all that
in the RJ City interview with her, she revealed that I believe her major was English in university.
Well, if I was her, I'd ask for a refund on that correspondence course.
I want to say her major was English and her minor was English literature. And then he asked her about a bunch of books and she had no idea what she was talking about.
I don't know about the major or the minor, but speaking of minors, so after all of the horseshit was done with the speaking, then Saraya and Harley and Anna jumped all the girls in the ring, but Toni Storm made a comeback, but then ran her own self through a fucking table. The end. What the fuck? This is a parody of a wrestling show at this point. And you can't even critique whatever the fuck's going on.
And again, the question always comes down to, who is this marketed towards? If you're going to pretend that it's not just about getting women who are wearing women with wedgies bopping down to the ring for perverts watching the show, certainly there are fans who appreciate it.
You just said that they were not all perverts. Some of them are pre-verts and some of them are post-verts.
I'm not even saying all the fans of women's wrestling. I'm saying look at how it's being marketed and pushed to them. Is it being treated the same way the men are? And I'm not saying it should in terms of how much time they get, and they certainly don't have all the talent the same way. But in terms of the storyline, in terms of how people behave in this, is this for adult men? Is this like an adult man's...
Chronologically or emotionally?
Is this an adult man's idea of what would work for an 8-year-old girl or a man who thinks like an 8-year-old girl? Like, it makes no sense when you really think about it. Like, who is it supposed to appeal to? But what do I know? I'm just an old-fashioned wrestling fan.
Just a normal adult man. And the next match for the Owen Hart Cup, Chris Statlander against Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose has returned after a 2-year absence to do a job on TV.
Hometown show, though. She's from D.C. She got a big pop.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah, you asked about D.C.
She came back to do a job in her hometown. I wonder if it was her birthday. That would have made it perfect. And then we got to Danny Garcia against Rhett Titus. I love Rhett Titus. Worked with him in Ring of Honor. Wonderful young man. Has he been on this television show ever?
We definitely saw him lose a match where he was treated like a job guy somewhere, but it may have been Collision, not...
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Well, anyway. So the generic Samoans jumped on Mac Daddy, who was doing color at the desk, and Brian Cage and the masked Mexican, who I now know to be Hechichichero, came out and beat up Garcia after Garcia had beat Rhett, but then MJF hit for the save, started to make a save on a group of jobbers who were beating up another jobber. But then they stopped MJF and beat him up. And then Will Ostrich hit the ring and made a big comeback and saved him. And then MJF and Will bump into each other back to back and turn around and face off. So now we haven't even had Swerve and Ostrich yet. And they're getting ready for the Wembley main event. So thanks for coming, Swerve. We appreciate your contributions. We gave you every chance in the world we could for a week and a half, but it just didn't work out.
And they had the big B. They had the big three baby faces in there: MJF, Ospreay, and Daniel Garcia. No, look, I guess you set it up in a sense because the villainous team cut in with a promo after the match earlier. So I guess if you wanted to try to justify why MJF is still there, let alone why he's running in completely outnumbered like an idiot.
To save Rhett Titus and Mac Daddy.
Yeah, where did Rhett Titus go, by the way? Everyone else was still in that thing.
Well, yeah, and he said, fuck it, they got my fucking ass saved. I'm getting out of here before somebody beats me up again.
They obviously are setting things up for Ospreay and MJF. They want people to buzz about it before they give it to him, as they should. Is this the way you would go about setting that up, knowing that someone else is the champion right now?
But what part of MJF's character has ever been, I'll just save random people I don't even know at risk to myself? That was the whole thing of why they liked MJF, because he was a scumbag, but he was their scumbag. And they would chant, he's our scumbag. Well, now he's an idiot, like all the rest of them. Because he goes out and then he gets beat up by jobbers. And then the new flavor of the moment comes out and saves his ass. Which is why their world champion wasn't over by the time he won the thing. Which is why they've taken everybody else that was goddamn at some level over or popular or had interest and nullified them, confused them, made them meaningless. Who's a heel? Who's a baby face? Whose side are they on? Who are they mad at? Why does this guy manage these people? This guy's over here with those people. Who are these people? Can you show me some identification?
One more thing I'll say here. There was a sign front row all night, and that's interesting because WWE apparently banned a Scott Cornish sign that one of the listeners, Ben Rich, brought to ringside.
Oh, well, why would they have heat with Scott Cornish?
No one in the front row, they said, on a TV taping could have a sign. There was one on AEW. I think it was either Where's Sammy or We Support Sammy. The fact that it was there means it was allowed to be there, whatever that means.
Well, but now which Sammy was that?
Sammy Davis Jr. It wouldn't be Sami Zayn. It was definitely a different spelling than that Sammy.
Well, it could have been Sammy Davis Jr., or it could have been Sami Zayn, or it could, because they don't know all how to spell.
Sammy Maudlin.
Sammy Maudlin. Or it could have been Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Oh, I mean, we support him. I guess it could be. It could be. He's big.
And I
he's
forgot
big in
about
Fairfax.
Well, I forgot about Sammy Guevara. He's not hurt. They're just pissed off at him, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But yeah, the other thing is, just real quick, MJF got over as good as you could. And he only interacted with main eventers for a long time.
Yeah.
And then after a certain point, when he became babyface, when he became champion, it was almost like the obligation to pull other people up, but sometimes you have to acknowledge that that's not the best way for him to be used. He's good interacting with the other. He's amazing interacting with the other top people, but using him to try to get other people to that level, I don't think that's a wise way to use MJF, whether it's any time we've seen it before or any time we're about to see it.
Well, no, it needs to be the right guy, not just a bunch of random people. It can be done, but just not constantly and or with goofballs. And as well, it just diminishes him when he's out there involved with these slugs that nobody gives a shit about in the overall scheme of things. And it also, like you said, he used to have great match after great match on pay-per-view when it counted. But that was, you build something to where it means something and then you pay it off. And he doesn't build with just having random good matches because, yeah. But the whole thing with Adam Cole and that whole angle and story with all of those people in the group and who was it, Black Scorpion, whatever the fuck, that did not do MJF any good. And I think he's still suffering from it, along with just the fact that the whole rest of the program is so much worse now than it was the last time he was featured on it. And he's not a goddamn Merlin the magician. You can't ask one human being to save an entire goddamn sinking battleship. So it is what it is. And then, speaking of the last sinking of the battleship, the main event was for the Owen tournament, Claudio versus Pac. And of course, they ran overtime, and I didn't give a fuck because I knew Pac was going to win. And he did. And apparently, then he and Danielson stared at each other for a while. And that was what happened.
I saw a graphic before the show aired. You know, AEW does those graphics to show you each match on the card for that show.
Yes.
The last thing listed was Overrun. Like it's one of the attractions. Like it's helped them in any way at all. And this is going to be an interesting week. You know, we don't have the ratings as we end right now, but there was no Big Bang Theory. It was Black Panther. It was a movie. Yeah, so I mean, it's a different lead-in altogether. So we'll see what happens there. But, you know, an ending I didn't really care about, Claudio versus Pac. They had good matches in the past, but I've seen them in the past. But they're lacking star power big time. And, you know, again, they're investing time now in Roosh. We'll see. Daniel Garcia. We'll see. The women's division. They're giving a lot of time to the women's division right now.
Yeah.
And Mercedes wasn't even on here, was she? No, just a video or something. And that was Dynamite from Fairfax.
I'm telling you, it's like it's getting to be a hairy situation. It's getting to be, boy, just by the hair of my chinny chin, I'm ready to cut this program off at any time. They're really wearing on me.
You know, when AEW was doing better, when it first started and had all this positive momentum, Tony Khan was a clean-shaven guy. I would think he shaved every day.
Yes, he did. But now look at him. Now he looks straggly and unkempt and overgrown and askew and akimbo and all over the place. And that's primarily, don't you, what it's from. It's primarily because he was not aware that our friends at harrys.com have the $13 trial set on sale now for just $3. That's because Tony spent all of his money and all of his dad's money on the high-priced wrestling talent and the big television shows. He's got nothing left to spend on his shaving routine. That's why he's grown out and he looks like Lon Chaney Jr. in The Wolfman. Or potentially like Larry Talbot, CM Punk's cute but ugly little puppy. He's got hair growing everywhere, out of his ears, his eyes, his tongue is hairy. You know, if you take one of Harry's razors and shave your tongue with it, you'll taste certain types of citrus fruits better. Did you know that, Brian?
I do not believe that is certainly. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but I certainly know it's not advised by anyone at all. No one.
Well, see, you used to be able to speak intelligently until you shaved your tongue. But folks, right now, the trial set that I'm talking about, we've talked about our friends at harrys.com. They have the shaving supplies and equipment that will bring an end to any untamed, wild, straggly beard. German-engineered blades made in their own factory. They stay sharp longer. You will stay sharp. And they got the 5-blade razor with the weighted handle, the ergonomic design, the foaming shave gel, customizable delivery options for when you schedule the refills as low as $2, which is half or less what you pay for the other big brands. I'm telling you, from the time you lather up this rich skin softening body wash and scents like Redland or Woodwood, wait a minute, scents.
Redwood or Woodwood, ladies and gentlemen. They have all sorts of...
They have scents like Redwood and Wildlands. or Red, Wild, and Woodwood. Stone, would you like to smell like a rock? They can make it happen.
Why does everything sound like it's named after a South Jersey town?
Yeah, well, either that or just you're out in the woods. You're smelling like nature. They've got the extra strength, high quality, amazing smelling deodorant for just $5. You know, a deodorant's not an antiperspirant, Brian. You know that, don't you?
Well, one stops perspirant and the other one doesn't.
One stops perspirant. Yes, it does. But the other one, see, the deodorant deodorizes you, whereas the antiperspirant makes you stop perspiring. And then, of course, that fucks up your entire body chemistry until your kidneys shut down. But that's a whole different thing.
Wait, what?
And at Harry's, they've also got hair and other grooming products that fit your unique look and needs. So if you look like nobody else in the world, or at least if nobody else will claim to look like you, then that means you have a unique look, and Harry's is the place for you to go. The highest customer satisfaction in the shaving industry. They have not had one complaint in the last 14 days of anyone bleeding out from a carotid artery being severed. Highest customer satisfaction you're going to find it. Compare that to the records of the other big box shaving people, retailer people who we can't mention.
Let's not compare or contrast at all. Let's speak specifically about one person.
Other people can't just come out willy-nilly and say, nope, nobody's bled to death using my stuff this month. But Harry's can. And right now, they've got a convenient subscription option that you can cancel at any time, but why would you? What, do you just want to look like a bum? But anyway, right now, get more performance out of your shave with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3. By going to Harry's, HARRYS.com/JCE, $13 trial set for $3. You're saving $10. You're saving more than 3 times as much as you're spending, which ought to be illegal. And once that the government finds out about it, they're probably going to pass something. So hurry now. Harrys.com/JCE, a $3 trial set. Shave yourself slicker than cum on a gold tooth, and you'll be more personable and more presentable to be in front of grown adult folks.
You certainly will. With Harry's, one more time, promo code Jim.
JCE.
JCE. Well, with that, Jim, it's time to get ready for the ratings. We are going to travel through time. No time better than now. I'm seeing breaking news reports. Uncle Howdy apparently killed the crew of the Pat McAfee show today. We'll see. I haven't seen a video yet, but
you know what? Actually, Uncle Howdy's on my payroll because I'm sick and tired of watching these shows. So he's going to systematically go around and murder the cast of every one of these programs so we don't have to watch them anymore.
Well, we will find out if Uncle Howdy did anything to the ratings when we return from time travel right after this. Well,
sounds like Rod Serling's funeral dirge.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone of this episode, the Dynamite ratings review. If this is a review,
we're later than normal. We're reviewing the ratings. We're recapping and we're not recanting the ratings. We're relaying the ratings. And later than normal because it was a holiday before the program. So they were late after the program. We don't understand, but here we are.
We believe that's the reason. Actually, we're not even exactly certain, but we are here, and
here I sit, waiting for you to reveal this information to me. Much like Karnak the Magnificent in his questions, I have no knowledge.
You have no knowledge. Yes, that's correct.
Hey,
what?
Don't put a period there. That was a comma.
Oh shit!
I have no. Well, oh shit, that's an exclamation point, but. I have no knowledge or forethought of what you're about to reveal to me, and we're going to go through this, and all you have an element of glee in your voice is all I can tell.
Well, I was eating popcorn. That's what you maybe just hear the popcorn in my teeth. It's still in my teeth.
No, so it wasn't you being gleeful. Your mouth was just popping.
That's right. I was
randomly.
I decided to eat popcorn in advance of this review. Jim, before we get to AEW Dynamite, just because we've talked about it the last few weeks, important to note here, NXT. on the USA Network, June 18th, 2024. 724,000 viewers on average.
And that ain't bad for NXT is on a little roll here.
They are on quite a roll. They're well above their trend line. The last 3 weeks have all been high. Who was on this episode? Joe Hendry?
He's a nice young man. I'm glad to see he's doing well.
Well, I know that they're good on social media, but in terms of bouncing the number, he was in the opening thing here. A lot of the women who just run around with the fakest names of all time. It's like they're working at a club.
I thought you meant a lot of the women were watching the show because Joe Hendry, he is quite a looker, ladies.
I was talking about the late. I don't know what you're on with Joe. I was going to say Joe Nathan. Joe Henry.
Joe Namath?
No, not Joe Namath.
That's his new gimmick, Broadway Joe Hendry. He's moved from the United Kingdom to the United States, and now he's a New Yorker, Broadway Joe Hendry.
Ethan Page was again on the show. Trick Williams and the usual stars. So this says something. Again, no strong competition like Vanderpump or... Actually, I think Vanderpump is on Tuesdays, but I don't know. Nothing really big.
Maybe he ain't pumping as hard as he used to.
But NXT on a bit of a roll. And like we said previously, they've reversed position-wise, look-wise, feel-wise, where they were and where AEW was. And I think you kind of have to put them together still. From the very beginning, the Wednesday Night War, NXT left to become a brand new NXT, and look at it now. So that's the NXT number.
724,000.
That is correct. Jim, AEW Dynamite on TBS, Wednesday, June 19th, 8 to 10:08 p.m. On average, 502,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord, have mercy, Christ on a cracker.
Now, I am already hearing from people inside the company, quite frankly, saying, well, look, the Big Bang Theory wasn't the lead-in.
Well, wait, oh, come on. Wait a minute.
It was only Black Panther. It was only one of the biggest movies of all time for Marvel. It wasn't the Big Bang Theory.
The umpty-seventh airing of a sitcom from 10 or 12, however many years ago, was not our lead-in. Instead, it was a blockbuster Hollywood movie, so it cost us 200,000 people. Hello? McFly? And also now they've said the NBA Finals the last few weeks has had some impact. What else was on the other channel Wednesday night? The fucking Super Bowl?
I believe there was hockey, there was baseball on, there was a Kendrick Lamar streaming concert online. So there were other things for anyone who was looking for any reason not to watch AEW.
500, are you sure?
Well, 502,000 viewers on average. According to Brandon Thurston, WrestleNomics, new record low for a non-preempted episode, new record low in the key demo for a non-preempted episode. And then it says, note, I've confirmed independently the rating measurement is not an error. Because everyone had the same reaction. Whoa! We said they were going to catch up to Rampage. I didn't think it was going to happen the next week.
Well, where did they start and where did they finish? And who were the people involved in the program that really ran people away? Who are the raids, kills fans dead in this episode?
Well, we go now, 8 to 8:15 p.m., quarter one. Roosh versus MJF, 586,000 viewers.
Oh, what in the world?
No Big Bang Theory. It says a lot about what the Big Bang Theory means to AEW. We joke about it a lot. A lot we joke about it. It's true. Sheldon's the biggest draw in AEW.
But what? I mean, it's reruns of a situation comedy that has been on before a number of times. How can this be? And then if they're watching a Big Bang Theory, why don't we know that 100,000 of them tune out normally, but not? What the fuck?
It begs the question, too, how much of the Big Bang Theory viewership is real versus DVR? But again, I don't know enough about how these are broken down to figure that out. Quarter two.
And by the way, why does anybody watch that fucking show?
The Big Bang Theory, it's the worst show ever.
Who likes any of those fucking stupid people? I want to see a triple threat. The Seinfeld cast versus the Always Sunny cast versus the Big Bang Theory cast. And then I want Seinfeld and Always Sunny to just gang up on those assholes and just kick the bloody shit out of them.
Yeah, I like Always Sunny, but I think I'm on Team Seinfeld here.
Well, I didn't. That's why I said they'll just team up and kick the shit out of the other assholes.
That's a cop-out. What kind of booker are you? What kind of ending to it is that? That's horrible.
Well, that's a standard triple threat fucking match. It doesn't have to make any sense. Speaking of not making any sense, where'd they go in quarter? They can't fall much further. They won't hit their fucking average.
Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. Roosh versus MJF continued. The post-match with the Cage of Agony. They were the Gates of Agony. Now they're called Cage of Agony. The Cage of Agony and Hechicero.
Hechichichero.
Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe and friends backstage promo and ad break. Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland's live confrontation. 542,000 viewers.
So they put enough dreck in the middle of their three biggest stars, MJF, Swerve, and Will, that they still lost 44,000 people off of the worst start ever.
Weird question before we go any more forward here, but you may know. How often does Nielsen change the homes that it looks to? Right? Because if you're a Nielsen home, you're not necessarily that forever, are you?
No. And actually, on a local level, we used to be able to tell with the OVW numbers when they switched homes, because suddenly we'd be on a string of 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and suddenly it'd be like 0.6. What the fuck? And it was, I don't know, a period of several months. But generally, with the national samplings and et cetera, that, I mean, it's still imperfect, but that does somewhat correct itself. But no, think about this: if it was a result of just switching the people that are being measured, it would happen more than once every 4 or 5 fucking years. So they've been chugging right along, and then suddenly, pew! That ain't just changing, pew!
By the way, someone tweeted out, on this day, we remember the time that Tim Horner suggested increasing ratings for Smoky Mountain Wrestling by going to the local electronics store and turning all the TVs to Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Yes! Yes, and for the benefit of those of you who have not heard the story firsthand, me and Tim Horner and Sandy Scott are sitting there talking to each other the week before that our show debuts on Fox 43 in Knoxville on a Sunday morning. And I made the comment, well, we can hope that every TV station in Knoxville is tuned to Fox 43 on Sunday morning. And Horner said, you know, we ought to sneak down there I can't remember what the fuck the name of the goddamn television store, but we ought to sneak down there to Joe's TV store and put all the goddamn TVs on channel 43.
The sneaking down there is an underrated part of the story. We should sneak down there.
Yeah, sneak in there.
Hey, something's happening to all the TVs. What's going on? Is it a ghost? What is
And Sandy and I looked at him, waiting for him to laugh. And he didn't. And then he looked at us, looking at him like he had turds hanging out of his mouth, and then it dawned on him that they wouldn't be able to tell anyway, would they? Anyway, quarter 3.
Quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. Continuation of Ospreay, Strickland, and Prince Nana. The Don Callis family backstage promo.
Who is it? Who's even in that family, and do they speak to each other? Where's Hobbs?
Half of Don Callis' segments are with people outside of his family now. An ad break. Roderick Strong, Konosuke Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Kyle Sabre Jr. versus Dante Martin, Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy.
Wait a minute. How many Kyles?
With picture-in-picture.
How many Kyles was in that 8-man tag team match, now that you've just rattled that off?
Kyle Fletcher and Kyle O'Reilly.
And Kyle's, you said Kyle Sabre Jr.
Did I? Oh,
What's
Zack
his name?
Sabre
What
Jr.
is Zack Sabre? See, I was going to go with it. And Kyle Sabre Jr. was in it too.
Well, why not? Why not? The American audience don't know who he is anyway. It doesn't matter. 496,000 viewers.
Oh, sweet Jesus, as Percy Pringle would say. Well, there went another 46,000 people. They've got to come back up. They can't keep dropping mathematically.
We go now to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The continuation of the giant match I listed off before, with more picture-in-picture ads and a Mercedes Moné video, 489,000 viewers, and 194,000 in the key demo.
And again,
so they broke 200 on Dynamite in the key demo. Wow.
This program is on every Wednesday night in this time slot. If people were watching it on purpose, they wouldn't care whether the Big Bang Theory was on beforehand or not, and they would have figured out that they were missing something that they normally enjoy by about 9 o'clock or so, an hour in, wouldn't you think? And what is it? Is the Big Bang Theory audience a bunch of paraplegics that don't have the Stephen Hawking thing on their TV remote where they can blow into it and change the channel? They're just stuck with it?
I can't speak to their audience. I'm not one of them. Jim, we go now to the big 9 o'clock hour. Quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Roosh and Don Callis' backstage angle. The Acclaimed and Okada's ramp angle.
A ramp angle. Now they pulled that old chestnut out of vaudeville. The ramp angle.
Brandon Thurston does a very good job compiling the statistics. He does a very bad job of labeling what is an angle and what isn't.
He's not sure of the exact terminology, but we love Thurston Howell III.
And Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed with picture-in-picture. 492,000 viewers.
So at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, they stayed even with their big guns there, the big boys, the big stars.
Well, we go from that to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Samoa Joe and Hook's backstage angle. Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, her bosom, Mariah May, live promo angle with Saraya.
Now with Saraya.
Guest starring Saraya, Harley Cameron, Ada J. An ad break, a Claudio Castagnoli and Pac video, 523,000 viewers.
Well, there you go. You got 31,000 fans of tits.
And ass. Don't forget the ass.
And ass. There's some ass there.
It's ass everywhere in AEW. But anyway.
It smells like ass every time the ratings come out, but.
We go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander with picture-in-picture. The post-match with Stokely Hathaway, Willow Nightingale, and that's it. And Willow Nightingale.
You know what? More people know who the actors are in the commercials in the ad breaks than know who a lot of these fucking people are. But go ahead.
A recap. Private Party, Chris Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith's backstage angle, which I'm guessing is so Jericho didn't have to show up for work. And Rhett Titus versus Daniel Garcia. 498,000 viewers.
Well, at least they didn't lose all that they gained. They only lost, well, out of the 31,000, they only lost 25,000.
I remind you, there's an 8-minute overrun.
Oh, of course there is.
Quarter 8, 9:40. They literally announced it in the billboard where they show the matches and the images of the wrestlers. The last one was overrun.
Overrun. Maybe they should term it overstay, as in overstaying your welcome.
Well, we'll find out. 9:45 to 10 p.m. Quarter 8. The post-match of Garcia versus Titus with Matt Menard. The Cage of Agony. Hechicero. MJF. Will Ospreay. And an ad break. Also, Ospreay and Cage's backstage angle. And the start of Claudio Castagnoli versus Pac with picture-in-picture. 431,000 viewers.
Oh my
8-minute
God.
overrun, 423,000 viewers.
Oh, gee, they lost. They drove away viewers that tuned in to see the next program. So, on the positive side, they didn't lose as big a percentage of their overall audience as the audience they started with as they usually do. They only went from 586,000 to 423,000. They've done quarter hours that have lost more people than that. That's only 163,000 people. But the problem was when they were losing people, that many people in a quarter, they started with like 900 grand.
What could this be? I mean, again, the show's been bad. We haven't been surprised the ratings keep going down even with competition or without it. I'm not surprised they end up with these numbers. I'm surprised it happened this week. What do you think? I mean, again, no Big Bang Theory. And obviously, we had no idea just how important that lead-in was to this show.
Well, again, if they didn't want to watch the show when they watch The Big Bang Theory every week, if they don't want to watch the show that's on after it, then they could just change the channel. Is that the only, we might as well sit here and watch this wrestling show for a while, even though it's not something we really want to. But when Big Bang Theory isn't on, they don't miss it.
So again, we're looking at outside forces. A concert streaming, sports on other channels.
The NBA Finals didn't fucking hurt them. That was over. This was not against the NBA Finals, correct?
No, the NBA Finals are over. I mean, there's hockey still happening in baseball.
Oh, there's hockey? Oh, there's goddamn badminton, too. And I bet I don't
think they get in prime time badminton for the
They're
record.
Playing a mean game of croquet somewhere.
Again, not prime time. But unless there's a specific channel, the croquet channel. But we're looking at all these outside things it could be. Let's look
Could it have been
inside.
People were just outside? But did they just go outside and say, no, we don't want to watch television?
I like Roosh. You haven't. But even with me liking him, he hasn't been used well. He doesn't mean much to the casual viewer, whatever that may mean to whoever it may mean it to. He's in the opening thing with MJF, leading to MJF starting a feud with Heckel. Again, another name no one knows. Orange Cassidy. I've been saying it, if not warning people for a long time. You've been saying it. It's not just what you think of him. This is 5 years of this. He's not a net positive for the show. And he drags everyone else in every segment down with him. Swerve's been booked into oblivion already. People like Ospreay, unfortunately, you're at the point now you're waiting for them to fuck it up. You had a bunch of people in an 8-man tag. Out of nowhere. Just an 8-man tag to drive off another 50,000 viewers. Why? Why? Why are you dedicating your TV time just to get a bunch of people out there? And then it keeps going. Jericho wasn't even on with his stupid segment on this show. You have the women's segments, which drive people off regularly. The Young Bucks, who regularly drive people off, are in one of the main things. There's no one that actually interests people on this show.
How much money do they spend for Cody to sit there and say bitch in a bad accent once a week?
And Tony will say everything's great. We're all wrong. It doesn't matter how many years you've been watching wrestling or how much you know your stuff. You're wrong. Tony's right. This is good stuff. Good run of TV shows. Everything's great. What do you think TBS thinks?
What did you say?
Oh no, everything's great. Well, there it is. Everything's great.
A good run.
And I'm
sorry.
It was
a good run while it lasted.
Claudio versus Pac in the main event. If you wanted that to mean anything to any fans, it should have happened like 6 years ago. I think it did in NXT way back. But that's my point. Like, what is this show? Where are the main eventers? Where are the stars? Where are the interesting things happening? You can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Who's on whose side? Who's mad at who and why in a logical fashion? Just simple shit like that.
Boy, I'm dying to know what the story is with this rating. Again, there's a lot of things that go together. The bad booking, the lack of star power, the lack of big banging. But this is this is extraordinarily low.
To quote Jerry Jarrett to Robert Fuller in 1979, Robert, it can't get much worse. And to quote Robert Fuller to Jerry Jarrett, right back at him, oh, yes, it can.
According to WrestleNomics, in terms of competition, Dynamite was outranked in the key demo on cable by the College World Series on ESPN and by Expedition Unknown on Discovery.
Wait, so people watched a show where they were taking a trip to somewhere they didn't even know where they were going? And that was viewed by more people.
Well,
remember when we laughed when TNA was on Destination America and then Pop TV? And we were laughing at some of the programs that were on those various networks. Apparently, maybe now those would outrate this fine show. We got to see what next week is. Next week's got to be up.
It certainly will be. I mean, just because it can't go much lower. It can't.
Oh, yes, it can.
Right
but
now,
I don't think it will.
I would be stunned. Yeah, I would be stunned. 0.16 in the key demo. I mean, that's the one thing people always hold up. Well, they did good in the key demo. They got killed in the key demo.
That's
awful.
Right up there with a charity telethon, isn't it?
Boy. All right, well, that was the AEW Dynamite ratings review. Jim, if you're a wrestler working there or a producer hearing you snapping your fingers or whatever the fuck's happening over there.
I'm my pen here.
You may want to sue.
It's my pen. I'll sue you if you try to take my pen away from me. I'll sue you.
I'll sue you and National Pen.
You know what? I've got a lawyer, and you know what his name is?
Call Stephen P. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to be a talented individual who has suddenly been sucked into some kind of producer's Max Bialystock scheme to create the worst show in recorded history as a way to launder some kind of money, or whatever else is going on over there, and you feel that you have been put on a television program that is seen by fewer people than the top 5 gangsters in the witness protection program, then we know who you need to call to get your rights restored, and that is the incomparable Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE, because he will cut through all the bullshit, the chit-chat, the riff-raff, and the dingleberries and get to the meat of the matter, and that is gaining you justice in a court of American law. Even if he has to take a baseball bat made of good old American pine and wear somebody out with it. Figuratively speaking, of course. Stephen P. New is the man for you. 877-50-STEVE. From California to Sarasota, Florida, and every place in between, Stephen P. New is available to fly there and rectify the situation.
That's right. He'll go to Florida. He'll go to California. He'll stop over in St. Louis.
It's right in the middle. Get some Emo's Pizza.
I got the Mets game on in the background. They're in Chicago. There are birds flying in front of the camera nonstop.
Well, that's because nobody has smartened the birds up that it's a television production. They're just going about their normal business. They're flying through the air.
Well, speaking of going about their normal business, we're going to get out of here in a minute. Let's get a song
Let's
or
go
two.
back and talk to our legal eagle, though, or talk about our legal eagle, since you had the bird transition there. Stephen P. New, the man for you. He's a legal eagle that will feed upon the bones of the cancerous vultures of our society.
What a coincidence. AEW, we're at the Eagle Bank Arena, and we have the legal eagle.
That's right. Where were they?
Fairfax, Virginia. Tickets distributed according to WrestleTix, 4,167.
Well, there was almost more people in the crowd than there was watching on television.